That doesn't matter.
Okay, here we
Okay.
go. All right, so welcome everybody. This is the annual general meeting of Global Peace Alliance. Thank you for attending. I'm hoping that more people will join as time goes on. Um, Sometimes I have a hard time seeing if anybody's waiting, but now that I see I figured out where to look if people um, come to the meeting. Anyway, it should be automatic. So Global Peace Alliance has been around for over 12, 13 years, and it was started by a group of people in Surrey. A lot of them had read a book that was written by R.B. Haraf, and the main things in his book brought about, which were based on a historical account of all the problems in the world through World War One and World War Two. And the premise for him um, was that people need to find common ground and treat each other in a respectful manner as they would treat themselves. So his vision was a vision of lasting peace, and you can read the vision statement at the top. And then throughout the history of GPA, we have held multicultural events. We have had webinars. We have gone into schools and done lectures. We have attended community events to give our support. We have shared documentaries. In the past year, we have worked together with Sir Del Rock. And at this point, I would like you, Nora, to just introduce yourself and just say a few words about Sir Del Rock.
Hi, I'm Nora Volbeck, and I um, got involved with going to rallies and things like in 2023 and was going downtown. And then I started going to a rally in the Tri-Cities area. And there I met some people who were interested in starting a group, rally in the Surrey Delta and White Rock area because I am from White Rock myself, and we just felt like there was a lack of kind of exposure and presence on this side of the river. So at the beginning of January, we started a rally every Sunday on the corner of 100th Ave and King George at the Holland Park entrance from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. We've been doing that every Sunday. And then along the way, we started to get involved in some other events. And that's where I met Niovi and was introduced to the Global Peace Alliance. So yeah, that's pretty much the history of our group. We're uh, on we're having our rally every Sunday, rain, snow, or shine, and just kind of looking to branch out and get involved in other events as well.
Thank you, Nora. Um, I One of the things that I have done and a few other people have joined was over the last few years, I guess, or more. I can't exactly remember. Sorry about that. We have done rallies with um, Barbara's group, and not only for Palestine, but also for Hiroshima and other things. And I'll let Barbara now introduce herself.
Well, great to be here, everyone, and congratulations on calling the meeting Niobe. Glad to help. These kinds of relationships between organizations are so vital for the peace movement to grow and be effective. We need unity, we need cooperation. So that's a big reason why I'm here. I'm Barbara Waldern with Just Peace Committee, and it's affiliated with this group, the sign up for which you see behind me, ILPS, International League of People's Struggle, which is a global anti-imperialist movement of lots of different types of mass organizations on many types of issues like workers and health and education, human rights, and of course, peace is central to that. And I started Just Peace Committee when I returned from Korea in 2017 after teaching English abroad there. I had been affiliated with the peace movement there and the labor movement there. And ILPS has member groups there. Before that, I was always involved in the anti-imperialist movement, 80s into the 90s and 2000s. And I did some work for a time for human rights in the Philippines because they've had martial law, military rule, basically very poor society, undemocratic society, a vicious government for quite a long time. And I started this little group because the peace movement organizing was on a downturn when we really needed it to be on an upturn. Because, as you know, after the war in Iraq, when so many organizations started and there was a much bigger movement, there, of course, have been wars, aggressions, occupations. But a lot of the organizers who were leading that were getting older and wanted to move on and do other things. And finally, the coalition to stop the war in Vancouver was kind of just collapsed around the time that I came back. And so that left a big hole. And there didn't seem to be much in the way of public commemorations of Hiroshima and Nagasaki Day. So that was the very first thing that I started doing, at least to have some kind of public acknowledgement of that, um, mass crime and all the suffering of Japanese and Korean people, and to continue to oppose nuclear weapons, imperialism, war. And so I began working with other groups. We had a few students with us and very busy activists from other groups. So we need more people, but I've relied on reaching out to groups like Global Peace Alliance, as Niobe was describing, to be able to hold demonstrations and talks and so on. And glad to see that there's an upsurge now. Unfortunately, it's because of the genocide in Gaza, but at least it's bringing in a lot of youth and newcomers to the movement who are getting informed and want to be active. So it's a really good time for you guys to be holding the AGM and rebuilding Global Peace Alliance. And I look forward to more work with you in the future. And happy to be a general member for now.
Thank you, Barbara, so much. So, I one of the things that obviously the purpose that's on the screen, we have not been able to accomplish all these things. And I've also been very flexible in telling members or directors that this is not anything written in stone. It should be flexible and change with time. But what I wanted to say was that part of our multicultural initiatives was to have an art and literary contest every year. And that used to be a huge success because it involved all ages, and we would give, little awards and incentives to the winners. And at the festival, we would acknowledge them. We would display all the artwork. Um, and I miss those times and wish that more people would get involved because the government will fund anything related to multiculturalism or anti-racism. Um, and I can teach people how to apply for grants and things like that. So as I'm getting on in age, I would certainly be open to showing new people how to go about running a society and how to go about getting grants. Um, One of the other people that just joined us is Mavish Mona Yusuf, and I've known her for quite a few years as well. She also had a very active group um, and was an activist in both local and international events and with her group as well. Um, Hi, Mona. Did you want to say a few words?
Hi,
And
Niobe.
she's helped a lot in the past with the GPA.
Hi, Niobe. Can I jump in a little bit later? Just setting up my
Yeah,
laptop and stuff.
sure. No worries. No worries. So another member who has been there all along and who's super involved in the community and social justice in the White Rock Film Society is Stephen and his wife Annabelle. And I'll give them a welcome in a minute to say hello. Stephen, are you there?
Yes, hi. So, yeah, I guess I'll keep it fairly short. I think, Niobe, we met first of all when you were running for the NDP, and then a little later I was running for the NDP, and you invited me to an event in Surrey, and I cannot think of the name of the guy right now, who was the speaker there from Global Peace, not from World Beyond War. And what was it? And he's
I
still there,
think
of
it
course.
was David Swanson.
Yes, David Swanson. His name
Mhm.
just escaped me there. So,
Barbara, were you at that meeting?
what?
Okay, it was, I think, in Delta. Yeah,
Yeah. Uh,
sorry.
might have been. I thought it was. Anyway, well, it doesn't matter. But anyway, that was kind of my introduction, I guess, to Global Peace Alliance and World Beyond War. And I've been out on a few. Oh, I should say that we had quite a successful event. The Film Society here had quite a successful event. We showed. Uh, No Other Land last at the end of April, and we had about 200 people show up. We had great support with the Sir Del Rock for Palestine and Global Peace Alliance and Independent Jewish Voices. So it was, yeah, we were very happy. We had about 200 people show up to that. Our next film is Union Street, and it's about the racism against Blacks in Vancouver. So that's on May 30th. So if you're interested, just get in touch about that. Um, and I think that's about all. So
Thank you, Stephen. I'm just going to share now and begin our little talk on the G7. Shouldn't say little talk because it's big what's going on in the world. Um, and just give me a moment. Okay, let's see. Get back to my share. Here we go. Okay, now the other person with us is Parvena, and she's been a good friend and supporter. She has been doing peace talks with the Surrey teachers in the last few years, very successfully. Well, I'll let her say hi and say a few words, and then we'll start our discussion on the G7.
Thank you, Niobe. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for the opportunity. I just want to say that really wholeheartedly I support Niobe and the organization for this very profound purpose of the peace. As I mentioned, I'm a Baha'i, so the core of the Baha'i faith is oneness of humanity. So everything that we talk here about peace is very close to my heart. I have been more involved in the education part, and I do write poetry, lots of it, which all circle around bringing unity and really stopping racism or any kind of prejudices that stops us to become united. So my involvement is more towards the education, and all the purpose points that was shown to us really are very important, and I hope that in future I get more involved in promoting peace amongst whoever that is relevant that we work with. My approach is more general towards all humanity and less specific. However, all the atrocities that happens and we work towards stopping them are also extremely important. So yeah, thank you for your kindness, and I'm happy to be with you. Thank you. And
Thank you.
because I did 2 surgeries on my mouth yesterday and the day before, I won't be very long here because I have to rest. Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. Take care. All right, Barbara, the floor is yours. You let me know when you want me to go to the next slide.
Okay. So we call this situationer. And in the practices among the ILPS groups, when we decide on a campaign or some action, we look into the background information. So we are opposing the G7 summit, which is to be held in the Rockies on the Alberta side, the Rocky Mountains on the Alberta side, in June 15th to June 17th. And a group of 7 is the core group of the imperialist countries, led by the US, of course. And they have been meeting for decades. That expanded to the G20 in recent years, I think around 2010 sometime. Then they meet every 2 years. The G7 meets every year. So different countries host it, and that country that hosts the annual summit, it holds the chair, the president's position. So it's Canada's turn this year. And this meeting, when Russia was involved, it was the G8. Russia hasn't been involved in a few years. The G8 had a meeting in the same place, Kananaskis Recreational Area, Kananaskis Lodge. That's an Indigenous name, and on the eastern side of the Rockies, the Alberta side. So they held this kind of meeting in 2002, and at that time there were thousands of people that protested it right at the gates of the event. And in Calgary is about an hour's drive away. And that was at the height of the globalization movement. But all these meetings, these institutions of these imperialist countries are always opposed. So we're rebuilding this opposition to G7, and it's our duty as peace activists to oppose the G7 while it meets here, because these countries, most of them, these 7 countries, are involved in NATO. And the main thing they talk about is so-called global security. And global, yeah, there's the 7 countries listed here: US, Germany, Japan, UK, France, Italy, and Canada. So Canada's been on board as an extension of British colonialism. It has supported US imperialism and helped it carry out its dirty deeds in the world. So when they talk about defense and security, they're talking about defending and securing the position of the ruling elites. So this is how we understand it. And these elites militarize, as you know. They create wars, they occupy, they interfere in other countries, they threaten, they find puppet leaders, they organize coups. They're very aggressive in order to secure their interests, mainly so that the companies and the families in the elite can make a lot of money. So can you just go back to the first slide, the previous one? Okay. Yeah, no, just leave it here. Oh yeah, that.
Sorry, which
Okay,
one?
so you're flipping around. This is not in order. Okay, you can go back to number 3. And we'll just do it in order.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so this is an informal block, but we can understand that it's in one of these institutions like WTO and APEC, these organizations that bring these countries together to plan things together. And there are other countries attending the meeting. Prime Minister Carney has invited the non-elect so-called president of Ukraine, Zelensky, to turn up. We expect that there'll probably be a representative of Israel, although there's no public information about that, because these are areas of the world that they'll discuss extensively, and they plan together what to do in those regions, which is basically to continue dominating and carrying out war. The European Union attends. They have a representative. Okay, next. All right. Right. So to understand how their role in the world, we can look at their gross domestic product, which is a loose way of measuring how wealthy countries are, how much they produce domestically. So together they amount to about a quarter of the world's wealth, but they only represent about 10% of the population of the world. Next. This presentation goes through each country, talk about its wealth and how much it's involved militarily, and it's important to oppose Canada's role. And our campaign is really big on talking about Canadian foreign policy, military spending, defense policy. We oppose the membership in or the agreement with the US called NORAD, North American Defense. That really ties and integrates the US military very closely on a day-to-day basis. There are military bases in the north and various types of installations like radar, and the US uses a base in Ontario and sends troops in for cooperation to different bases. And the US has ultimate command of the US troops in time of a direct conflict. And they're all increasing their military budgets, but also they're militarizing at home. And mainly that's against the resistance. and against all their scapegoats, like they want to blame things on the immigrants and so on. So, and as we know, this is increasing, and Canada also participates in that. The RCMP plays a very bloody role around the world and in Canada. And Canada is a hub of mining, has a big oil industry and forestry and agricultural industries. So the companies involved in those want to hold their positions and their profits, and they more and more are directly commanding our governments and making sure that their agenda is the political agenda over and above what the people need and want. Okay, next. All right, so they're comparing Italy's economy and participation in the war industry. Next.
I'll just go through these.
France has a lot of nuclear weapons as well. Next. Right. And UK still has nuclear weapons. Right. So, right, Germany, as we know, is very hawkish. It wants to extend the war in Ukraine. And they're all losing their role and importance because of the economic change and the changing status of the US, but there's still dangers. Germany is still a big danger and headed back towards fascism. Okay, next.
I just want to say, Barbara, that Germany is one of the countries that has suppressed free speech the most when it comes to Palestine.
And they're more and more adapting the policies of fascism. What you've skipped through some here.
Yeah, my thing.
Okay, so I think the brawn, of course, what we mean is the muscle, the firepower, the enforcement. They need the military to sustain their rule, keep down the people's resistance, the liberation struggles, and to combat the peace movement. They need to do this in order to assert their rule and maintain their markets and profits. So these are, just go back, please. Yeah, so these are some of the pacts. NATO is a big one. Our campaign also opposes NATO. AUKUS, some of you know what this is. Australia, UK, US military pact. NATO and all these countries share the Indo-Pacific military strategy. And basically this is to confront Japan, and they're trying to confront China. They're trying to stir up a war against China because they see China as a growing power and a rival. And then these Camp David principles worked out over the years in the US. And ROK is Korea, South Korea. Okay, continue. Right, so I mentioned the nuclear weapons. And Canada has played a role. It developed the nuclear weapon. It provides uranium, and it's involved in all this planning and technology that supports nuclear weapons and other weapons. And it's busy trading and making some of these corporations making a lot of money. There are a lot of weapons producers in Canada.
I just want to add,
okay, yes.
Barbara, that the UN has proposed treaties that would eliminate nuclear weapons, because if there's ever a war and anyone uses a nuclear weapon, it means the destruction of the world, because it will pretty much burn everything and people would starve. That is, if anyone did survive. And there are over 100 countries that have already signed. And one of the things that Global Peace Alliance has done is bring, even at the municipal level, to mayors to sign or to urge federal government to sign the non-nuclear proliferation treaty. Surrey did sign on White Rock signed on, but Surrey has not. But many cities in BC have signed, and part of the work for peacemakers is to continue urging cities, provinces, countries to sign on, and most of the G7 countries, of course, have not signed on. And always living under this tension, even as yesterday, India and Pakistan were almost on the verge of a major war.
Yeah, the non-proliferation treaty is an agreement, an old agreement among countries not to develop nuclear weapons and trade nuclear weapons further. But NATO and all the member countries have gone against this. They're openly endorsing the use of nuclear weapons and threatening to use nuclear weapons. So a citizens movement, the ICAN movement, International Coalition Against Nuclear Weapons, started the newest treaty that Niobe's talking about, the Treaty for the Prohibition Against Nuclear Weapons. So this is a treaty to ban it, and it was started getting endorsed by UN member countries in 2020. But so far, as Niobe pointed out, none of the big powers are signing it. It's only a lot of the small Caribbean, South Pacific countries that are signing it. But that's an important movement to support for the reasons Niobe gave. Okay. So this is how we see the Russia-Ukraine war, and this is what the G7's interest in. This is a big topic in their meetings. So they keep wanting to extend this, and the war industry is making a lot of money for this, and more people are suffering and are threatened in the whole region. It's not good for Russia, and we're not excusing Russia's invasion, but we understand that the whole thing is mostly a NATO project to intimidate, to bully, to threaten Russia and force it into a conflict, because they were hoping to disable Russia this way, but of course that's not working out. But nevertheless, they don't want to acknowledge that there is a defeat, and they want to extend this. So the Eastern Europe is important to the US-led imperialist interests. Yeah, so it's no good for Ukraine. They're losing everything. It's all tragic. So the G7 has something to say on the economy. Of course, it's the economy of the war profiteers, the economy of the corporations and families that profit out of land extraction, land conversion, taking over land all over the world. And they do this through their political manipulations, as well as strangling the countries with debt, and their military interventions, expanding the bases and military presence everywhere, Latin America, and Africa, and Asia, Australia. Yeah, it's all about sustaining the system of exploitation and subjugation of the weaker countries. Next. So topic is AI. AI is just a technology. It's neutral, but of course, the powers that be are developing it to do its dirty work. This is very dangerous. I'm not very informed to be able to talk about it, but they want to control this industry, and they want to use AI for their manipulations of propaganda, political control, and in their military work. And the psychological war, and propaganda is a big part of warfare. I think Israel is an example how they used AI to figure out the targets that the automated system sends missiles and so on to targets in Gaza and the West Bank. So these are the diabolical plans. Okay, so prior to the actual summit, the foreign ministers get together and have a summit, the foreign ministers of these 7 countries and their friends. And this is what they talked about. And they use the language of peace and security and helping people and bringing democracy, which is just all a perversion. When they issued a statement, which we in the Niobe's and your group have looked at through the Canada-wide Peace and Justice Network, it's hypocritical because they're talking about the need to make peace and the dangers to security and ongoing war, but of course they created it all. And they continue to create it. And the plans that they're hatching up are to continue to militarize and put the world in danger and start more wars. Okay.
If I may ask, what is the call for nuclear disarmament of DPRK?
North Korea, right? Because
So
the same with Iran. They oppose to any development of nuclear weapons, but I think DPRK may have 2 or 3 nuclear weapons, but it's been developed after being surrounded. If you know, Japan has many bases. South Korea has many bases. There are thousands and thousands of US troops there. They are nuclear armed and capable. And this is a threat. I believe if North Korea hadn't developed a nuclear weapon, that it would have been invaded a long time ago. So that's what that's referring to. They are busy rebuilding and developing more nuclear weapons, but they're telling other countries that they shouldn't have them. Of course, nobody should have them. So it's not an argument to say that any of them should have them. And Russia has really been developing and expanding its military force, and that was displayed yesterday. You may have seen broadcasts and pictures of the parade where Russia is showing off its military at their victory celebration. I think is it the fifth, whatever year it is of the Russia defeat of the German Nazis in Europe in 1945. They have an annual celebration. So they're showing off all their military capability.
And Trump wants to do the same.
Yeah, okay. So what's going on? The same things that the foreign ministers were talking about, like basically the foreign ministers were discussing the agenda of this year's summit. So this is how they talk about it: international peace and security, but it's all blah blah, and they're hatching up, they're making the world more dangerous. And Mark Carney, Prime Minister Mark Carney, he's justifying militarizing Canada more and being more involved in the trade, even though he's talking about the domestic economy. He's saying, well, it's a dangerous world out there. Well, Canada, stop making it so dangerous. Get away from US policies and NATO. And then I wanted to share the posters. Do you have the poster there for the G7? So if I can share now, I can just show it to everybody. And then, well, anyway, I wanted just to mention the ILPS in Canada, this group. We have 23 organizations right now in Canada, have made a campaign for 2025 against the militarization of Canada and Canada's part in militarizing the world. And so there are 3 main actions. And the one is the annual action against Canada's largest arms trade show, CANSEC, Canada Security Conference. CANSEC. And the Peace and Justice Network has mobilized its forces and joined with IOPS in organizing that. And these efforts have been increased over recent years. So now there are hundreds of people demonstrating, and they're preparing to demonstrate the end of May. This event is always held at the end of May, and that's 2 weeks before the G7 summit. So it's the groups more and the Central Canada, Ontario, Quebec that are busy organizing that action. And so more of the groups on the West Coast, mostly we have them in BC that are organizing against the G7. And then in August, we want to have a big action against the Abbotsford Air Show and the accompanying aerospace trade show. We haven't really protested that trade show before, but it goes on. It's a complement to the air show. It's been going on for years. Global Peace Alliance and Just Peace Committee and other groups have worked together, leafleting, and protesting the Abbotsford Air Show, but that's being greatly expanded. Last year at the air show, there was a blockade of one of the gates. At the air show. So we're going to expand this further, and we hope that you all help get people there and participate in that protest too. So it's really important to bring more and more people together. And we can't just write letters and say things. We have to try to block the war industry and block the politicians. It's really important for us to come out physically to these events and protest. And locally, through the month of end of May and into June, we're doing a propaganda campaign with posters and more educationals and flyers. So during CANSEC on May 28, 29, we'll be going to the offices of some of these arms businesses that are in Richmond, Delta, Vancouver, and we'll be postering and talking to people and leafleting on those 2 days, and that's the day of the action in Ottawa, the main action in Ottawa. And then we'll also do some work like that on G7. There'll be postering and leafleting and so on. And also on NATO, and there'll be a new educational that will make the connections between G7 and NATO and the arms trade show and NATO. And that will be publicly available, just like this slideshow is available to everybody. Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much, Barbara. One of the organizations that Barbara mentioned is the Canada-wide Peace and Justice Network. And I just want to say that both Barbara and myself and many other groups have been part of this network for, I think now 3 years almost, 4. And there are over 50 other organizations. And one of them is the Artistes pour la Paix in Quebec. And they do extraordinary work as well. And they have drafted this letter to send to Prime Minister Carney and the Premier Legault, and essentially is to stop the genocide. There have been many petitions, but I'm going to share this, send it out to all the contacts that I have, and if you could share it with other people as well. It's just incredible to me and heartbreaking that this genocide is continuing. Mona, nice to see you. Did you want to say a few words, especially about India and Pakistan, and whether, like, we know that Trump is too scattered to say anything, or but my brain, knowing that America is behind all these wars, is there a role that the U.S. is playing in creating this tension. I mean, Kashmir has been an issue since the division of Pakistan and India. Again, the blame going to the West that they did not allow Kashmir to be independent. Yeah, sorry for rambling. Can you unmute yourself?
Okay. Thank you so much for inviting me, Niobe. It's always a pleasure to see you and your group here. I apologize for not being so active. As I told you, I was struggling with multiple chronic conditions and slightly better. I think summers brings happiness and joy to everyone. So I bought some flowers and kind of feeling better. I think it's while we are doing all this peace work, and it sometimes it's so difficult to even watch the war, the violence, and that's what brings us down. So we need to bring joy in our lives by, like, as I was telling you, I bought some flowers and just to help me feel better. So, I've been watching as you mentioned, India and Pakistan war, and just the videos that were coming out were draining me, and it was getting worse. And my brother, actually, you met my brother. He went to Pakistan to visit 3 weeks ago, and he's stuck there right now because the air bases are completely closed until May 17th. So I was worrying about my family and everybody there. So the thing is that it's I thank you so much for Barbara to explain the G7 meetings and information. I would love to work together with both of you and see where I can help, because these ceasefires, they are saying that in India and Pakistan they announced a ceasefire, but just hours after there has been some blasts, missiles just today. And so this is just ongoing. And you must have heard that there has been ceasefire announcements and about Palestine, Israel too. And, it just doesn't stop, right? It's either another area or just a pause, and then it just keeps on going and going. So, we need what I think we are lacking, and I would like to understand the gaps we have, because there are not many people, like the activists who are trying to make a difference, right? Like, for example, through media. I mean, they have a very strong media, but through media, social media, or through protest, we are scattered. We are doing independent work, but we are not working together and strategizing. Just like I had a meme on my cover page that we need to organize as well as the people who organize wars. So the peace workers, we need to work together and strategize how we can stop these wars. And it's not just through one area. I think it's through multiple channels. We have to do it through social media campaigns, through protests, through writing letters, through going to these politicians and talking to them in person, especially when they're running for elections. We have to put them on spot. So there's so many different areas, but the thing is, everybody, like especially young people right now, are worried their jobs, there are not many jobs out there, and people are losing income, and everybody, because we are living in a rat race, and people are there's only survival is jobs, and now we don't even have jobs. So it's very hard to get people to stay involved in this peace work, because it's draining, as because you have to watch what is happening. Just watching the news I used to think I'm a very strong person, but with my
It's
health conditions.
exhausting.
It becomes exhausting, and sometimes I lose sleep, and then the whole day becomes next day becomes worse. So I think I before, while you all were talking, I was thinking that we need to, and you mentioned about the multicultural events and festivals that one can organize where we can get funding. I think we need to combine fun activities along with, what is happening. So to get people involved, because people want to have some enjoyment in their life because they're already burdened with a everyday life, and then give them small doses about what is happening in the world, and share information. But the activities should be, especially with summer coming, the activities should be more fun and social and get-togethers, and then we can
You're so
get them.
right, Mona, so right.
Mhm.
The
Yeah,
group that
so
I
so
just want to
that's the
mention,
mhm,
the group that I've been working with is the Sir Dell for Palestine.
mhm.
I don't know if you were here when Nora was speaking about it.
Little bit. Mhm.
Yeah, they have their rally goes from every Sunday from 1 to 3, and we've tried exactly what you're saying. We want to also, I mean, we have people who come and speak, and it's um, very emotional. But they've also had, a little table for children to do art. We've had music, even though we're at the corner of the street. Tomorrow there might be people singing, and so on. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that it is very important for people to not be all the time overwhelmed, but to also celebrate the now and try and find peace within ourselves and within the people that engage or come to an event. Like we had a beautiful potluck, and
Right. So for that,
those
I
kinds of
suggest that
things.
we need to combine different, whether it's peace organizations or like-minded people. Independent organizations need to come together and unite, because my health is not as good as to I've hosted events as big as 1,000 people or protests. I have or I was able to organize at one point, but I feel that now I cannot do it alone. It's
Hard to
very
do things alone.
hard to do things.
Why,
But if we combine efforts, and I know we have our own independent entities, and we can bring in ideas and collaborate. So now is the time to do co-organizing or co-hosting type of work together. Otherwise, we are at a stage where we are very close to, I feel that we are very close to World War III. It's already started, so like, now India and Pakistan is involved, and these are just the trials. And there's a lot of stuff brewing, and, the conflict is brewing for several years, and it's Pakistan is at the verge of getting divided between, you might have heard about Balochistan, there's movements within which are trying to divide Pakistan, and those are rebel movements, just like they were trying to divide Syria and other countries. So, and sometimes they are trained by external entities. It's just very political, some, and the problem is it's hard to convince everybody what what you believe is the truth, because sometimes what your understanding is 100% correct is not correct, because there are two sides of things. For example, when it comes to Assad Bashar, he was a dictator, but then he was better than what these rebel movements have come in power, and now they're trying to destroy more further. So whereas some people think, differently about the rebel movement that are inside Syria. So it just the conflicts of understanding things is also a big challenge, and that causes a lot of arguments. And within whenever you bring up these subjects about peace, because whenever you try to regain peace and keep people united, like keep Pakistan, for example, united, somebody would come in and say, this is happening in Pakistan. They need to give rights, which is true because the other side is usually has truth of their own. But then, and it's usually the government fault that who's not, giving the equal rights to those areas like Balochistan or Pakhtunistan, the areas that are trying to divide from Pakistan, or Sindh as well. Sindh is the upper. I don't know if you know much about the provinces.
No, it's interesting to hear you talk about it, but if I may, one of the things that we all know is that the wealth is concentrated. And I'm sure that in Pakistan as well, the wealth there, people are suffering. And I don't know how, but people are starting to talk about a revolution, not necessarily in military fashion, but a revolution with our whole capitalist system, where workers start sharing the wealth in
Right.
ways that has not been done, like
Right.
big corporations, workers sharing in the profits and sharing in the managerial decisions and so on. So Canadian Policy Alternatives has their last email I would like to share. I don't know if I have, but I want to share that because for the first time, especially in Canada, I've seen such a movement, even though we as peacemakers know that wars are created when people suffer economically as well as when special interests are in there. But I was very happy to see that this organization is now starting to talk and to show and to write about how important it is to change the present system. And one of the things that are key pieces in Global Peace Alliance's book that was written by the founder was that until we learn to share with the world, so that you don't have that you have basic human rights, you're not starving, you're not out in the cold. These are basic things that everyone in the world must have. Otherwise, conflict will continue. So, thank you so much for your thoughts, and I'm hoping that that you come and join if you want on a Sunday afternoon. You can join Sir Del Rock as well. We organize through a chat called Signal. Right now, we're organizing for next Sunday, where we're trying to combine our flag waving with some fun types of events. So if you happen to come by or have a little bit of time, we'd love to see everyone there.
I just wanted to mention that the you talked about the elites, or Barbara also talked about the elites, involvement in behind these wars, and it's the same thing in Pakistan, same thing everywhere pretty much. The elites are, profiting from these wars, and workers need to, stand. We need a revolution, but right now Pakistan is, the enemy is at the doorstep, and it's very hard for the weak countries or poor countries to have this type of revolution against their own government when, when they are getting missile attacks, or, or about to have missile attacks from external parties. So these small countries, like whether it's Pakistan or Syria, they also need support from other countries or people internationally uh, for their revolution, for them to speak on the behalf of workers, on the behalf of middle class, because globalists want to erase middle class or workers everywhere, whether have infiltrated in pretty much every country, and their goal is to dominate, and as you all said, that dominate, or they do regime changes to dominate, or find other reasons to divide people within, based on sex, color, culture, all sorts of things, and they try to divide people within the country to destabilize those countries and then take over.
Very
So
well said, Mona. Very well said. So just before we go, I just want to give everyone a chance to say a few words. And I just want to remind people who are listening to this that we are looking for members. We have signed, I forget what exactly, a memoranda of understanding. A memoranda of understanding is where you work together with another organization and cooperate and do joint, find commonalities. And Global Peace Alliance has a memorandum. Unfortunately, today the person is not here, but we do have with a couple of other groups memoranda of understanding, and hopefully with new members, if you're out there and you have the time, we would love more people to join, and especially to have new directors, because as I said, you cannot have an organization with a couple of people. You need at least, 3 or 4. It's, like you said, very difficult to organize things on one's own. So, Barbara, are you still there? Did you want to say a few words? Nora, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good, thanks. I just, wanted to say thank you to Barbara and Mona and Annabelle and Stephen. Nice to meet everybody officially on here. And Naomi, I guess I could follow up with you. I would be more than honored and willing to put my name in and participate in any way that I can. So I guess I can contact you later about that if that's okay.
Thank you so much.
So nice to
Give your son a hug.
I will.
He's
Thank
been
you.
so good.
He's been really patient today. Thank
Very
you.
nice. Barbara?
Yeah, thank you again for the invitation, and I'm happy to continue working with Global Peace Alliance. And now, I don't mind signing the memorandum. And so let's go forward together. I look forward to doing whatever we can. And on some of the points that Mona made, you have to give a priority to your own health and well-being, because you can't work in the peace movement if you're not well anyway, right? And I know I have to keep up exercise. I belong to different social clubs. Of course, I'm retired now, but so I have a lot more time for it and opportunity for it. But I get out and take walks or join some kind of recreational club or community
Go to the
center.
beach. That's me. I love the beach.
Yeah, and I
Calms
do
me
bowling,
down.
outdoor bowling, indoor bowling, and it's a priority. And at the end of every evening, I try to cut off the serious conversations. I stop looking at the podcasts and the film, the documentaries, and so on by about 8 o'clock in the evening. At the end of the evening, I always finish with some comedy. I find something comical on the screen to watch, and I really
A good
recommend that.
idea.
Yeah.
Great
Okay,
idea.
bye, everybody.
I
Bye.
guess we have been trained to look at these news, but there are people who are so sensitive that even if they look at one picture, it
It's
ruins
affecting
their.
everybody. It creates the whole atmosphere with people who are not very active in the movement, but they're following what's going on and they're normal. They have a sense of compassion, and it affects everybody. But
I'm worried what will
yeah,
happen.
and your point about including art and comedy and drama, theater, that has to be part of the political work, and it's a good way to communicate it and keep our spirits up. And it's very effective. So our propaganda campaigns always have that side, and work that with the groups that I'm in, we always have social events and time for chatter, how are you doing, and that kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
very important.
Thanks,
Another thing I
Barbara.
wanted to sorry, Noe, if you guys have to go, I just have one more point I wanted to bring up. Noe, you have something to say? Sorry, is that okay?
No, go ahead. I just wanted to make sure
Okay.
Stephen had a chance to
Oh, okay,
say.
sure. Okay, go ahead, Stephen.
Okay, well, we'll just say very quickly, uh, for the end of the night, I would recommend Still Standing, a good Canadian show, which has some. We kind of stayed away from it for quite a while because we thought it's probably going to be corny, and it is in some ways, but it's Johnny Harris goes to different Canadian towns that are struggling.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and so it's the humor is actually pretty good, and there's something uplifting about it. It's about communities, people in their communities that are active and doing things and for each other, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of like what we have to do as well, right?
Where
So
is that? When is that show, Stephen?
so you can stream it for free on
Mhm.
CBC Gem.
Oh,
Ah,
okay.
Yeah, you can,
Okay.
and I think we actually are support CBC Gem. It's maybe it's like $5 a month or something like that, and then you can watch things commercial free. So, but yeah, we find it a kind of uplifting sort of show to watch, and definitely some good humor in there. So,
Mhm.
yeah, and of course we look forward to working with everyone, and we'll do what we can.
thank you so much, Stephen. I know you're involved in support so many causes. I just take my hats off to you, and um, I just sometimes worry about you. Take it easy and prioritize, you know, up here too. Go ahead, Mona.
So while we were talking about exhaustion, Nilvi, I thought it's very critical to bring up mental health issues that we are having in the society, and that's a lot of it is with what if you're just at the beginning of this economic crisis or recession or depression, whatever you call it. So we need to, I guess we need to work, like I'm independently working on some preparedness material because people are already not able to watch these things and listen to news because they're having personal life issues so much with how the system is because they're worried concerned about the future. So I think we need to also work together on preparedness for what is coming, so people are not like a deer with headlights. They don't feel like a shock if there is an announcement about World War III or some major stock market crash or anything that happens, like cyber attack or anything happens, which happens time to time. But with COVID, a lot of people have lost that stamina that we used to have back 3-4 years ago. It just the society has divided, and people have gotten more mental health issues since then. So something that also we can combine with this peace work to help people with this issue, which is very important.
Wonderful, Mona. Let's get together and see, I'd love to see what you have.
Mhm, sure.
And if anybody would like a copy of Global Peace Alliance, the book that the organization was founded on, I have lots of copies to give. If anybody would like one, just let me know. Okay, everyone, it's been really good. Happy Mother's Day. Some of us who don't have children are also mothers to the world and mother their friends from time to time. So enjoy your Sunday, and Nora, I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes.
Barbara, thank you again so much for presenting. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Nice meeting you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.